with board executive again.
Oh.
Well,
What?
are you
I'm
done?
sorry.
Waiting for that to come out that way. I'm the only one like, what am I supposed to be doing? Are board members ready?
I'm ready. I'm sorry.
I'm not ready.
I love it.
either,
I told
okay?
you I jacked up on caffeine and
Yeah.
sugar. Jittery
Okay.
much?
No Mountain Dew for you.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, you don't want to see me.
So I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's at 10:33. First, on number 2 is introductions, and I thought we were going to have some introductions, but I think, Kim, we don't, do we?
What? Yeah.
We were going to have some introductions, but our new members aren't going to be available until May 1st.
Officially, yeah, we do have, Nicole is just attending as a member of the public right now.
And Noel is, I think let's do introductions. There's people in our space that some of us don't know.
And we could do
Right.
introductions for who's in the room right now.
Okay. Go for it. Go for it.
I am Kim. I think most people know me. I am the legislative and licensing analyst for the board.
I'm Noelle. I am a licensing assistant for the board.
I'm Mindy Tucker. I'm the senior compliance specialist for the board.
Molly Jansen, I'm an LCSW board member. And Bray Miller has stepped out, the executive director, but he'll be back in.
And I'm Cassie, I'm a licensing assistant.
And who do we have with us?
Yeah.
Anybody in the public like to introduce themselves while we go down the list here? Ashley, would you like to introduce yourself at all?
Hi, yes, I'm having issues with my camera at the moment, but I'm a representative with the Association of Social Work Boards. So I'm just here to listen in and offer any support or anything if I can. Thank you.
Thanks. Molly Wells, darling.
Hi, I'm Molly Wells-Darling. I am the Senior Behavioral Health Director for St. Charles Health System. I'm here to offer public comment related to direct hours for licensing supervision.
Amy.
I'm Amy Ashton Williams, board member.
Patty.
Hey, my name is Patty Farr. I'm the LCSW, one of 2 LCSW board members, or 3. I don't know how many.
Great. Yeah.
Abe.
I'm Abe Dudek, an investigator for the board.
Kyle.
I am Kyle Martin, and I am counsel for the board.
And Nicole.
I'm Nicole Pantley, and I'm soon to be board member of public.
Hey, public, is that what?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that everybody?
And I'm Stephanie Matthews, the current chair, and I'm a public board member also. So we got our introductions out of the way.
We just had,
Two more people.
Brittany and Evan. We have a couple other
I
people.
don't see- Oh, I didn't see them. Sorry. Let me scoot over to the other page then. Go ahead.
Evan's actually with me, and he just texted me that he can't hear anything. He's traveling, so I'll introduce him. His name is Evan Namcom. He works for Deschutes County Health Services and is here to offer public testimony related to the same topic.
Okay. Did we get everybody?
No,
I think that we have a
Brittany.
Brittany, if she wants, or if they
Maybe.
want
Oh,
anything.
my name is Brittany. I'm just here as a public member to just watch.
Okay.
Welcome.
It's really exciting.
Thanks.
I can change the view. Okay.
I'm going to move forward and review and the approval of the agenda. I have some changes to our current agenda that I'd like to propose. I do believe, Kyle, we have to vote on those 2 one by one, or do I just propose them all and then take a vote, or what do I do?
You can propose them all and then take a vote. And if that doesn't pass, then we have to go back one by one.
Okay. The reason I'm making this proposal to change the agenda is one that I'm recovering from hip replacement surgery, and I'm just not up to a full meeting. And so I'm going to take a few things off because in order to have this meeting, we need a quorum. So I have to be here in order to meet the quorum. Our new members won't be available until after May 1st. So I'm just trying to shorten the agenda so I can make it through the meeting and we don't have to cancel the meeting. So I would like to propose to eliminate number 9, special reviews. Number 10, public comment. We will have public comment in the earlier session right now, but the later on, I'm going to take off number 10, public comments. Number 11, old business, both 11A, 11B, and new business, 12A. I'd like to make a motion to take those off the agenda today and move them to the June meeting when we will have a full board and not a problem with quorum. Do I hear a second? Or do I hear a motion?
Was it 12A or 12B that you were saying?
12A.
Okay.
11A and B and 12A.
11A and B. You grab me one too.
I need a motion to make these changes to the agenda.
Stephanie, this is Amy. I would make a motion to the proposed changes of the agenda, removing 9, 10, 11, and 12A.
Do I hear a second?
Can I ask for a clarification? I don't know if this is appropriate time. I just want to make sure you're saying eliminate, so is part of the motion then that the items under 11 would be just moved to the next board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that was my only question. I just wanted to clarify for everybody in the
I
room.
appreciate that.
Do I hear a second on Amy's motion? If we don't have a second, then do we have to go back one by one then? Kyle?
Yes, obviously the motion fails.
Kyle, can an addendum to the motion be made, or is it better just to start over?
It's better to start over.
Okay.
Okay, so.
We can have discussion about what, right? We need some discussion about what, the hold up, if you will.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I think the only, I don't think concern is quite the right word, but the only kind of priority that I think that there's been a lot of work to make sure that we do have discussion about would be 11A. I just know that there was a lot of work to get that prepared for this meeting. And so I'm wondering about keeping that one as all the rest of your motion, and maybe even eliminate correspondence as well. Unless there's something significant there I'm unaware of. But I'm just curious, and I'll be honest, Patty, I'm wondering if I would defer to you if you're comfortable pushing that one to the next meeting, just because I know you've been kind of carrying that agenda item and trying to do the majority of the work on that.
Thank you, Molly. I appreciate that. Yeah, I really would like to have more discussion on this, on the alternative pathways.
I totally respect and understand that, but I'm just telling you, I don't know if I can make it that long. It's due to health. It has nothing else.
No, I understand that. I guess, it's so hard to predict how long it's gonna take us to move through some of these items. And
Correct.
So I don't know what kind of flexibility, and I'm looking, I guess, to Kyle and others who are better at kind of these kind of meetings. If other conversations take a long time and we don't feel like we have the time for that, can we leave it on the agenda? See you know, how things play out and if it's clear, obviously, we don't want to have a 5-minute discussion on it if we run out of time. At that point, we could defer it to the next meeting, or is it not, are we not allowed that level of flexibility?
You're definitely allowed that flexibility. I'm just making the request for the changes based on my health today. And after I do this, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Amy because I don't feel that I can run the meeting either.
So I guess I would propose then that we remove the items number 9, the second public comment, number 10, 11B under old business, 12A under new business, 14, which is correspondence, and that if need be, then if we don't have enough time for a effective conversation about alternative pathways, at that point, we could prioritize it for the next week. But we leave it on the agenda in the hopes that we can get to it.
So your motion is then to change the agenda by removing 9, 10, 11A,
No,
12A, and
No.
14.
No, my motion
11B,
is,
sorry, 11B. So that's your motion, 11B and 12A, correct?
and 14.
And 14. So that's Molly's motion. Do I hear a second?
My second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to turn the meeting over to Amy because like I said, I just don't have the energy to do this. So I'm going to let, Amy's our vice chair and she will be taking over from this point forward. Thank you, Amy.
You're so kind, Stephanie. Thank you. Okay, so next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from February 21st, 2025. I just want to make sure that everybody's had an opportunity to look at those. Patty, Molly, Stephanie, do you need time?
No, I've looked at them. I make a motion to approve the minutes as provided to us.
This is Stephanie, I second.
Thank you. Any opposed? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. This is the time, thank you for all the public for showing up. We really appreciate you guys coming. So at this time, we are open for public comment.
And just a reminder, this is our only opportunity for public comment in today's meeting.
Thanks, Mark.
We changed the agenda.
Oh, okay, all right, good. Okay.
I'll go first. I'm Molly Wills Darling. I'm here to provide some comment on the definition of direct hours. I have a colleague with me if he's still on the line. He's driving over the Santiam Pass, so it might be a little bit difficult for him, but hopefully he can weigh in. So we're here just to ask the board to look at the possibility of redefining direct hours in relation to associates supervision. I'm going to cover the emergency part and then I'll allow Evan to cover the community health part. But if he's not here, I have some of his comments written down that I can talk about. But for the emergency mental health and emergency department, as well as crisis clinics and mobile crisis and telephone crisis contacts, there's so much more that has to go into our evaluation of patients themselves. So while we have the face-to-face assessment with the patient, it's imperative that we also speak with the families or gather collateral information related to that patient, how they've been presenting. Oftentimes they may not be able to present for themselves because they may be quite psychotic. So we'll do that assessment with the patient with the psychosis, but then also as a part of that assessment, it's imperative that we gather the collateral information from the families to help us determine clinical risk as well as our recommendation. So we feel that that conversation with the family, we would like that to be counted towards supervision hours. The family intervention itself, while they're not identified as the patient, really that not only encompasses gathering the information from the family, but also this includes family education support, safety planning, etc. And I know those who have worked with families who their loved one is in extreme distress and crisis, and our emergency departments are out with law enforcement or in crisis centers. There is a lot of counseling that goes on with the family as well to help support them through that situation. The other aspect is consultation within the emergency department or the emergency treatment team. This includes clinically presenting the case to the psychiatrist, and the emergency department includes assessment and identifying risk factors. We are the experts reporting that off to the emergency department physician. So this portion is very important. And we also organize the discussion around what would be the best plan for this patient. Within that, we're also identifying if this patient meets criteria for being held against their will. So it's especially honed skill when you're handing off to doctors in terms of how you present those clinical cases in a way that's concise, but also covers all of the information. So that's something that is very much a training and a learning and necessity for a clinical social worker within the emergency department. I think, we all know that we have workforce shortages in the crisis arena for our crisis teams, mobile crisis teams in the field, as well as in our emergency departments and health lines. And without being able to utilize these other portions that are a mandatory part of our assessments, really just decrease the amount of hours that they have for face-to-face, which then causes them to be more likely to go do their clinical hours in a private practice, or in the case of the hospital, up on the floor for social work, which is not, I wouldn't say social work within the hospital, at least in our hospital, I know other hospitals, is not as clinical as doing a crisis risk assessment, therapy with the families at times, etc. It is more in our hospital around discharge planning and finding resources. Evan, are you around? Do you want to talk about the community mental health? He's still on.
Molly, I don't see that he's on any longer.
Okay, I have his notes, so I'll just kind of go over those as best I can. I used to work community mental health as well, so I'm familiar with this. So community mental health, they have intensive services. They provide environmental intervention, family advising, case management. That's not directly with the clients, but it's critically related to the clinical care of the patients and meeting the patient's needs. They clinically consult with appropriate professionals, which is a critical aspect of intensive work that helps them grow clinically and professionally. And also because of the diagnoses and complexity of the patients that they serve in the outpatient arena, who are typically, people who have severe and persistent mental illness. So all of the aspects of helping to guide that patient through their care, even when it comes to setting up resources, they may have people who have, schizophrenia or a schizoaffective disorder who may not want to accept those resources. So while they're taking them to try to do that resource development, they're also really clinically helping them and at times advocating for them. So it may not be face-to-face. They further provide prevention, education, and outreach to marginalized and difficult to engage about those individuals with the community. In addition, they identify needs and barriers essential that a clinical social worker provides in the community mental health as the individuals they serve are marginalized and difficult to engage at times. They provide ongoing assistance, which I referenced before, in helping them access resources. Oftentimes, those individuals that they're working with have a lack of, they don't trust other individuals in the community. And so because of their own experiences that they've had in the community. And so this is important work that their staff do. And this takes a special clinical skill in order to do that. I think I hit what he stated. And then we have a number of different states that we looked at in terms of rules that we'd be happy to send. I don't want to take up your time here to go over those. But I think as a highlight for us, the OAR discusses that there needs to be at least 2,000 hours and must involve direct contact with the client of the agency. And so for the purpose of crisis, we would like to look at family being a part of that, because family, obviously, when they are with the person or when we can get in contact with them, are a key element of our assessment for that patient. And I think that's all. We just wanted to come in and advocate for that.
Can I ask a question?
You mind if I respond real quickly?
Sure.
Okay, so we did have a conversation with some people who, a group of people who had an interest in changing direct client hours. As you just explained, there's a lot around what that looks like, the workforce, and lots of different factors. But what we were going to do as a staff is come up with a document that has all the factors around this subject outlined, and gives the board the resources you all need to engage in this conversation, and also make it an agenda item so that you have everything you need to fully engage with this question. So that's all I wanted to say.
So I do have a clarifying question, Molly, for you, and I know Evan's not here, but so as best as you can speak for him as well. I just want to make sure I'm understanding kind of the intention around the request. So I'm going to tell you what I think I heard, and will you tell me if I'm right or not? But what you're requesting is a redefining of the hours in situations where the people in these roles are having direct contact with clients, but they're also having additional contacts. Is that right?
Correct.
So the request is not a situation where a CSWA's entire job, they would never have contact with a client directly. They were only doing kind of collateral work only, let's say. Is that right in your request? I want to make sure I'm understanding.
That's correct. Yeah, they have the client that they're working with that's in crisis, and then as a part of that assessment, they're getting that information, typically from family, sometimes from law enforcement and others. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, thank you for letting me clarify that. I think it's an important distinction, so I just wanted to make sure that we had kind of on record where you all were coming from. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Hey, Molly, just as you concluded, Evan comes on. I just wondered if Evan wanted to share anything else.
Hi, Evan. I went over some of your points, but maybe you could speak to community mental health again, since you're the expert in that area.
Sure, yeah. Can you hear me all okay?
Yeah.
Sorry about that. I'm traveling over the Fanium Pass and literally just got back into service. Yeah, I think probably Molly already covered a lot of what I wanted to say, but I am the program manager of Forensic and Acute Services in Deschutes County. My teams work with a lot of our mandated and involuntary clients dealing with severe mental illness and the criminal justice system. So my teams are working not in traditional therapeutic settings. We are seeing clients in homeless camps, in the jail, in the community. Certainly not places that are well set up for traditional therapeutic work. And that's really our work. And So those contacts look very different than, you know, what you might imagine in terms of accumulating direct service hours with clients. And we're also meeting with people who typically don't want to or understand why they're working with us to begin with, which makes it challenging to engage as well. And really, like, that is community mental health, and that's what, you know, social work looks like in community mental health. And it's not ideal, and it's not in an office. And so I think, you know, I just really want to advocate on behalf of our teams and a lot of the people doing this work that, you know, the current rules as they're set out and what counts as direct hours are really challenging to meet when, you know, this is the kind of work that we're doing. And so, you know, I also spoke to some of our teams that work in our crisis programs. They had similar sentiments as well. I think it's especially hard for them. And you know, we had done some looking at other states' requirements, and I don't know how much Molly mentioned this, but I was somebody who was originally licensed in California, and in California, they have quite a complicated set of requirements and ways of counting hours. But one of the ways that they do it is they require 750 direct face-to-face hours with clients and a total of 2,000 hours, but that additional 1,250 can include things like clinical consultation, meeting with community partners, you know, outside meetings that are involved in client care, that kind of thing. And I think that when, you know, when you're thinking about the kind of work that we do, that perhaps that kind of a model of considering what constitutes direct hours makes more sense. You know, my team's clients don't just include the individuals that we're working with directly. Our clients often include the community, thinking about things like community safety, community partnerships, you know, working closely with other professionals who are involved in these people's lives, family, that kind of thing. And so yeah, I mean, I think all of this work is clinical. All of this work is absolutely social work. It all contributes directly to client care, but under the current definition of the rules, then that none of that, you know, is being counted towards direct service hours. So I think that's probably all that I got. Molly, did I miss anything that you didn't cover already?
No, I think that was great. Thanks, Evan.
Okay. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any other public comments?
Last chance, just as a. But I'll try to be quiet about it. You might get rid of it. We're good here, Amy. Everyone's back in on this end.
Awesome, thank you. Oh, thanks, Kim. Okay. Thanks for the quick bio break. That was much needed. Appreciate it. So we're gonna move right into our executive director reports.
All right, I'm gonna start and end with two of the most important items that I have. Number one, we have one public member opening. We'll have one public member opening as of the end of June. And so I'm gonna ask everyone here within sight and hearing of me and reading of me to communicate with your circles and let everyone know that the Board of Licensed Social Workers will have one public member opening at the end of June. And I am asking for assistance for recruitment for that position. If you know someone who is interested in that position, please have them contact me directly or go to the Board of Licensed Social Workers website and apply for that position. Secondly, I am going to shamefully plug everyone who is within my hearing and reading to check their portfolios, all of the Oregon's regulated social workers, to make sure that you are checking your portals regularly. Most of the information that we put out, the the occasional emails, the newsletter, all of that information, most of it can be found on your portals. So please make sure that you are letting everyone know within your realm of influence to check your portals regularly. And I'm gonna ask that if you are part of this, that you check the portals regularly. Legislative update. So it was a really, really busy session this time around. There's only 3 bills I'm gonna focus on because those are going to be important. SB some additional services that we provide along that, but I'm not saying that that's going to be taxing on our organizations. I think there's a training that we have to give people access to, and some minor stuff. So we got that covered. But anyway, I think that bill's going to pass. Looks like it's going to pass pretty easily. The other one is HB 2387, which changed. I don't know what the number is now, but it's the psilocybin bill. And we've had discussions around the psilocybin bill and how it affects the board. They did a really, really good job on the wording of that. And they were very specific about how that dual license structure is going to work. I was really happy with the outcome of the way that legislation is written. And in the way it's written now, I'm not saying that it's going to have a significant impact on the board around the issues that we talked about with having the increase in complaints and that kind of thing. They did a really good job with the verbiage of that bill. So, but it looks like that one, it's still going through right now, but it looks like that one's going to pass. The other one is the social work compact. The social work compact made it all the way to house reading on the floor, and I was available for that. And it did not pass this time around. I can anticipate that it's going to come back again. Once again, I don't think that we're being unreasonable in focusing on the parts of the bill that doesn't work for Oregon and asking that the Compact Commission consider Oregon in a version of that bill that works for Oregon. I still don't get any cooperation as far as that goes. So it didn't go this time around. We'll see what happens next session. I expect to be back next session. That's my legislative update. Are there any questions? All right. Moving on to SB 1552 update. That's the one that has to do with the with the other licensing boards. During that meeting, we expect to come up with draft language that's going to allow us to comply with SB 1552. And it's going to be the same language for all of the medical licensing boards, because that's something that we received from the legislature, is that the public doesn't like to go to each and every board and experience something different with each board. So by next Tuesday, we expect to have some language, and I'll make sure that the board gets a chance to view that language. And then we'll move from there. So, so that's SB 1552. Thank you update. There is no real thank you update. Nothing's changed. So we're waiting on some money from the legislature so that we can make some determinations as to what the needs are for the board and move forward with that. But thank you really hasn't changed much. So there's really not much of a thank you update. New board members. Julie is here. So Julie, unfortunately, I asked that when I put in the documentation that our new board members would be able to start this meeting, and somehow that didn't happen. And so when we got new board members, they went through the process, but at the end of that process, the date that the new board members were given were May 1st. And there's really not much I could do about that. So next meeting, they'll all be starting, but Julie's going to be starting next meeting. So this is Julie Myers. I think Nicole is here, right? There's Nicole Pantley. So she's here. She's going to be a board meeting starting next meeting, a public board member starting next meeting. And then we have Olivia Borman. That's going to be our CSWA spot. And so I believe next meeting we'll have a full board. So that'll be awesome. For 1 month.
That's how it always is.
All right, and so I don't have anything, and once again, as I said before, I'm recruiting already for that spot for June. So any questions about, or end of June, sorry. Any questions about that? moving on, staffing update. I want to welcome and applaud. We have a legislative and licensing analyst. Kim has received a promotion, so she is now our legislative and licensing analyst. I'm only giving a quick hand to her for all the hard work that she's done. She is, it deserves it more than words. I don't have the words to explain how she deserves the promotion. But, so what that means is she has new responsibilities. And so I'm gonna talk to the board next meeting about the possibility of another limited duration OS2, probably for about 6 months, because we need to transition Kim out of her current duties, duties that she was doing at the classification that she had before her promotion. Her promotion comes with a different set of duties, but we need to offload her duties onto someone else. I mean, there's also some projects that would make sense to get taken care of during that transition. So a staffing update, I'll likely be presenting something to the board asking for, we already have the money for it, and we just didn't hire a person. So I'll be presenting you all the possibility of hiring another limited duration OS2 for about 6 months, and then letting that in. I think that's all we'll need. And then we have an increase in, we're not able to keep up. Well, I shouldn't say that. We have a large backlog of cases in our compliance, and we don't really have the staff, the capacity to knock that down. So for a year, I've been working to find out what we can do internally to try to work through some of those cases, and for a year that hasn't worked. So I will be asking for a short-term addition to compliance staff because we're hundreds of cases behind and we just don't have the capacity. We've been working together over a year. We've been meeting and talking about efficiencies, and that just hasn't been able to work on that backlog the way we need to work on it. So I'll likely be asking for more compliance staff. And the same thing, probably a limited duration for about a year to see if we can work on that. But I'll be bringing all of that next week. Any questions on either one of those? So basically limited duration OS2 for about 6 months, and then probably a limited duration investigator for about a year. Work on the backlog. The Rules Advisory Committee, we already had a meeting, and in that, did we publish? Yeah, I know, well, yeah, that's right, we did meet twice. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I'm skipping the DEI plan because I've already written that, I submitted it last meeting. What we have to do is, and I should have did that already, is had y'all to look at it, and then we have discussion on it in this meeting. This is gonna be a short meeting, so there's no need to even have that there as an agenda item, so I'm gonna move that to next meeting. So, because that's a full-on discussion. And I'll submit the plan in box again next month. I think I put it in last month in box. And then since this was gonna be a short meeting, I didn't put it in this month, but I'll put it in next month in box. And then Rules Advisory Committee, we've already met twice. And then we have everything that's scheduled that was for the current RAC that the board has recommended has already gone through. Everyone's already looked at it. And so there's only one item left, which is the fee increase. And I'll be bringing that. So we have a meeting Monday, right? So we have a RAC meeting Monday, and in that RAC meeting, we'll begin discussions on the fee increase. Thank you so much, Amy, for your participation in that. Really appreciate you. But everything that was on the agenda that we had on that current agenda going to the RAC has already gone through the committee, and they think that those changes that we asked for are reasonable. So, and did we put any of that information in box? Okay, all right. And so I can put all of that in box so you all can see what we voted on and basically what we voted on passed. So really it's just looking at what we voted on. So, but all of that came directly out of the board meeting. So
Right,
you
I was
all
like, there's
agreed to
nothing-
it before we went to the RAC. Say again?
There was nothing different than what we discussed in the board
Exactly.
meeting
Perfect.
related
Yep.
to like the increase and none of that.
Exactly. Okay. Questions on RAC? All right. Next is I got 7. I'm gonna talk about what's here. 7J, which is Zoom bombing. So the reason this is just informative. I've heard from other boards and commissions that during their meetings they have had people to get to join their meetings and be purposefully disruptive with offensive and deceptive content just to be disruptive to that meeting. The reason I'm bringing this up is to let you all know that we already have mechanisms in place such that if we have someone during one of our meetings, was doing the Zoom bombing thing, which is to come in with offensive or information that is simply designed to disrupt the flow of the meeting itself, we already have a way to deal with that. If that pops up, we already got a way to take care of that. So I just want to inform you all that that's on the rise, and if it pops up in our meetings, we already have a way to deal with it. Any questions on that? And then, so licensee statistics, that's in box, right?
Yeah.
So licensing statistics are in box, and then the applicant statistics are in box.
Yeah.
And then what I typically read, which one got?
Board members to
Do
review.
you all want me to review any of that? Yay, nay?
Not unless there's something that is not in here that you want us to know.
Yeah, nah, I mean, they're doing the licensing and the compliance team are both doing awesome and amazing and outstanding jobs, and I don't have anything to add other than look at it and be impressed.
Yeah.
Say again?
Plus, it's posted in.
Exactly.
It basically says application processing times are staying steady
Yeah.
and quick, and our licensee numbers are going up. We're at over 9,500 now.
Jeez.
Amazing. Great.
I remember when we were in the 4,000.
Yeah.
Oldies. Tim,
Alright.
Ray, would it be true that I've seen, like, there's some more like RBSW applications?
Oh, yeah, we get more though. Yeah, we regularly get more, obviously.
I mean, we only have like 30 something total in our licensee base, but yeah, they
Yeah.
trickle through.
Yeah.
Now they're starting to, I was like, I'm seeing the numbers start to rise, so whatever we must, or the word must be getting out, like, hey, bachelor level social workers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and I'm being, so there's a couple of committees that I'm involved in. And there's an increasing need to fill gaps within the mental health workforce. And actually RBS studies and the MSWs, some going in a lot of these cases and filling in those gaps. So that could be a reason why those numbers are increasing. I'm done. How about you?
Wow. Okay, well, thanks, Ray. Appreciate all of the updates. Let's move on.
I'm sorry. Wrap up, we have to have a public member, so we need a public member, check your portals. And I also want to include that we have, Noelle is joining our meeting. She's, as I said, we're offloading some of Kim's responsibilities. And Noelle is going to be taking minutes for the meeting with some of the organizations, so that's why she's here. Cassie is observing the meeting because I'm encouraging some of the staff to come in and observe the meetings. And so one of the things that I should have already been doing, and I apologize, I hadn't been doing, is kind of helping Noelle with the notes. And I should have been kind of slowing down to make sure that Noelle got everything that she needed. But did you get everything I needed? Okay. Okay, now I'm done. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Amy.
I've seen Noelle in action taking notes. She is on it. On it.
I've had some practice now.
Thanks, Noelle. All right, well, let's move on to committee reports, and we'll start with Molly, if you're ready with CPC.
I am. So I have 10 motions we're gonna go through for Consumer Protection Committee. The first one in the matter of case 2019-07, I move to close this case.
We have
I
a
need
second.
You, those in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Abstained, motion passes. In the matter of case 2019-11, I move to close this case.
This is Stephanie, I second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. No opposed and no one abstained, so this motion passes. In the matter of case 2020-36, I move to dismiss this case.
This is Patty, I second.
Great, those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No one opposed, no one abstained, so the motion passes. In the matter of case 2021-20, I move to dismiss this case.
This is Stephanie, I second.
Thank you, Stephanie. Those in favor?
Aye.
There, no one opposed, no one abstained, so the motion passes. In the matter of case 2021-37, I move to close this case.
This is Patty, a second.
Thank you. Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No one abstained, so motion passes. In the matter of case 2023-41, I move to dismiss this case.
This is Stephanie, I second.
Thank you. Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Patty, I didn't see you choose any of those.
Sorry.
Oh, thanks.
I,
That was, what was that?
I support.
Okay, it's your
Aye,
favorite.
that was an
Okay.
aye. Sorry.
Thanks for clarifying. All right, so the motion passes. Matter of case 2025-11, I move to close this case.
This is
This
Amy,
Patty,
I'll
I second.
second.
Thank you.
Who did you have? Who did you pick?
I had Amy second.
I don't know.
So, those in favor, aye.
Aye.
You, nobody opposed, no one abstained, so motion passes. Matter of 2021-01, move to close this case.
This is Stephanie, I second.
Thank you. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, no one opposed, no one abstained, so that motion passes. In the matter of case 2021-11, I move to close this case as of 2025. Those in favor, oh wait, sorry, I need a second.
Amy, I'll
Sorry.
second.
Thank you, Amy. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, nobody opposed, nobody abstained, so motion passes. And then the matter of case 2023-07, I move to close this case.
This is Stephanie, I second.
Thank you. Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, nobody opposed, nobody abstained, so that motion passes as well, and that concludes the CPC motion agenda.
Thank you, Molly. You're so efficient. Thank you so much. We have a licensing and examination committee report. Who is that?
All right. We wanted to bring back a discussion on the definition of agency.
Mhm.
And there's questions about whether or not agency means physical address in Oregon.
Just physical.
So I can see that, like, as neoliberal forces move across the country, like many corporations are like popping up and like trying to provide services in different states. And many of them are like hiring CSWAs as private contractors,
Hmm.
and they don't have physical addresses in Oregon. And the definition in our rules is a little bit unclear about this. Was there anybody else who wanted to fill in?
Yeah. Look, I'd like to speak up to that. So, kind of to Patty's point, our staff, we're experiencing more in this increased occurrence of social workers doing independent practice. That aside, the question being, so as I read through, and can you all help me with the rule, please? Which rule are we?
It's under definition, so it's in Division 1.
Okay. Give me just a moment. I should have this ready.
So it's OAR 877-001-0006, and then it's number 1 directly under it.
Okay, Division 1 and 6, there it is, yeah, okay. So the question is, and I guess I should have had this a bit, so if we close it this time, closing, if we don't, we don't. But I do want this to be, I want there to be some awareness on this. So there's an agency definition under rule here.
It should be
Can we do a
box too.
screen share? Oh, yeah, did we put that in box?
Yeah.
877-0106?
Oh, maybe it's in the executive, or it's in the committee. I can share my screen though.
Yeah, do we have, try, if you can do a screen share with 877-001-006.
Is it the document titled LEO3? This one,
Oh, yeah, it's right there.
it's in the executive. It's-
Okay.
Yeah.
Go back. I'm gonna make this as short as we can. So which document was that, Molly?
LEO3 agency definition. I found it under the licensing and exam folder. So it's one on the bottom for me.
Okay, licensing and exam folder.
There's a line that says the organization displays its name on the premises so as to be clearly visible to clients.
Exactly, yep. And so, I'm sorry, which one is that again?
LEO3.
LEO3?
Yeah.
There we
On
go.
the screen too.
Okay, perfect, LEO3. Okay, so as I looked at this rule, I thought about how long it's been since these rules have been written. And I'm going through each one of these, and my question to the board, if you would be willing to take about 5 minutes and look at what each one of these are from A through I. As Patty just pointed out, there's some evidence here that there may have been an intent for a physical location. One of them being the organization controls clients' records and is responsible for their proper storage and destruction. Now, I know as of today that there's computers available and there's like client or cloud options, but I can guarantee you that at the time this was written, that was not the case. The other one, the organization displays its name on the premises as to be clearly visible to clients. Okay, to me, that's a clear indication that when this rule was written, the intent was to have a physical location. The name of the organization, well, I think that's not the so anyway, so with those two as points of evidence, and given the time frame that this rule was written, my question is, that's a leading question. Okay.
Meaning E's? You're talking about E? The organization displays its name.
E, yes, E, and also D. And the reason I'm focusing on D is because we have technology options available to take care of D now. But when this rule was written, I wouldn't think that like computer warehouses and clouds were available back then. So you're gonna store it someplace.
Well, and it doesn't define storage actually, so it does cover cloud as storage, right?
Well, as it's written now.
Yeah.
But at the time this was written, I don't think those options were available. And I don't think when the board made this rule at that time, they weren't thinking cloud or computer system warehouse, because that wasn't an option at the time.
So is the question, what's the question?
The question is,
Yeah.
when reading this, does the board believe that the intent behind this rule, behind the definition of agency, was for the agency to have a physical location? That's the question.
Yes.
Only on E though. E's the only one that implies that to me. The rest of them are to me would apply to a like a virtual office, let's say.
Right. Under today's rules.
Yes.
That is correct.
That's the only one that but I have a question for Kyle. I think, is Kyle still on? Yep, there he is. So in the first, under number 1, it says, engages in clinical social work generally characterized by the following. So that doesn't imply that all of these have to be met in order to be considered an agency, correct?
That's correct. And that was the intent when the board passed this rule. I remember when they passed it.
Okay, so the intent, Kyle, is that an agency doesn't have to fit all of these definitions. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct. That's
So
what, that
then-
was the intent then, when the board passed the rule. That's my recollection.
So then what, I suppose, did there come along with that discussion or with that conclusion, an intent, is it any one of these? Is it three of them? Is it just you fit one and you're good? I mean, what was the intent?
I don't remember the details of the discussion from that standpoint. I just remember that it needed to be characterized by these different items. And I don't think my recollection is there wasn't an expectation necessarily at all of them, but I don't remember if there was any discussion about, how many or whether it needed to be a majority or that sort of thing.
Okay,
You'd have to look back at the rulemaking history.
Okay, so let me fast forward to today, current state right now. So when this board uses the definition of agency, you're DOJ, I'm not an attorney. Would it be an expectation for the purposes of enforcing this definition that the board uses all of these or any one of these for the purposes of enforcing this?
Well, the board doesn't enforce this definition, so I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Okay, you're correct. Well, I believe, yeah, because wouldn't this be part of it? Right, we have to approve a CSWA's place of practice, and that place of practice has to fall under an agency definition. So yes, we do.
Well, they don't enforce the definition of agency. They look at whether or not the plan has in it an agency that meets the board's definition.
Okay, so then for the purposes of meeting the board's definition of agency, is it all of these or one of those?
Or most, but
I don't know that you could
That's
say
the
it's
bottom
got to
line.
be more than one, but I don't know. I mean, that would be an interpretation for the board and how they interpret that rule. I can just tell you that I remember that the reason why it says generally characterized is because when the board originally passed this rule, my recollection is there was discussions that all of those are not required. I don't recall if there was discussion about how many, and that's why I said it would be helpful if you looked at the rulemaking history. There should be some rulemaking history on this.
Okay.
I mean, this wasn't passed that long ago, was my recollection.
Yeah, so I will go back and take a look at the rulemaking history. The reason this came up as a question is because, so we, as Kyle just pointed out, each CSWA has a place of practice and a plan of practice, and in that plan, under that place of practice, it has to fall under an agency definition. And so I guess I'm gonna go back and take a look at that history, like Kyle says, and find out how much of this applies to that plan of practice.
Well, and I think
And because that becomes important with this new rise of these I don't think CSWAs doing private practice in and of themselves is a problem. But what I will say is there are organizations that, in my opinion, are using this rule to take advantage of CSWA.
Yeah, the fact that it says generally characterized by the following is a loophole, right? Then technically, I don't really have to meet all of these in order to be called an agency, and I could argue only one of them would qualify me potentially as an agency. So I do think it's an important consideration and that the board needs to maybe think about, are there some in this list that we should say must be present and then some others that are optional? Because I know that we've had an ongoing conversation about the concern in particular that appropriate supervision is not provided for the CSWAs.
So I think this is something, I'm sorry, go ahead, Patty.
The section E, that the organization displays its name on the premises, one of the things that I think it could mean is that the organization needs to have a physical presence in Oregon. Which the board, right, our purpose is to protect the public of Oregon and to serve Oregonians. And I think having agencies hold a physical presence in Oregon does a service to Oregon and Oregonians. Where if we're allowing corporations from just anywhere to just all of a sudden open shop here we're also allowing these groups to extract wealth from us while often not providing the same quality of services as agencies who have physical locations.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate a little bit. The flip side of that, Patty, I could see is that an organization that has a business license in Oregon, you know, if they're providing everything virtually, they may not actually have a brick and mortar outside of their home. And so are they expected to hang a sign on their garage door? You know, do you see what I mean? Like they could meet all the other criteria and be a completely virtual provider, because there are some places that are doing 0 in-person therapy, but they're meeting all the other, you know, supervision and billing and all these other kind of pieces. So just thinking about like, what I don't want to do is harm like a small business owner locally that's doing great service. And then we're kind of jamming them up maybe because all they have is a PO box, but you can't hang a sign on a PO box. Well, you could, but it would be weird. And it's not really what it's intended. You know what I mean? So I just kind of want to think about like what is out there that's actually helping our community. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think to bring this home, as the board, as the staff are doing their regular responsibilities, we've encountered some scenarios, and we've had this discussion before, both in committee and also in this general meeting, to where there are organizations, and if we, like you just said, Molly, you can read this, come up with this generally, and then you can use this to do harm to CSWAs. And I believe, based on the information that we're getting, there are organizations that are using this to cause harm to CSWAs. Now, what happens after this conversation? I don't know that we're ready to go there yet. I believe what Kyle said, we need to take a look at the notes for these definitions and then proceed from there. But the motivation to even look into this is I absolutely believe that there are organizations using this to cause harm to CSWAs. And I believe that this rule is something that needs to be revisited for a possible to run through a reg. For rules change.
Yeah.
I believe it is sufficiently general enough to at least warrant some discussions around rule change. So that's all I got.
So what do we have to do if we're gonna send this back to the RAC? What do we have to do? Just propose it right now?
The first step would be for the board's actual rules committee to look at it and,
Right,
and
yeah.
then have.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a rules committee within the board and they have to look at it and then they could recommend it to go to the RAC. And I think that comes for the board, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And then the board recommends it goes to rules.
Do we need a
So we
motion
can
for
do that
that?
next week. Well, go ahead, Patty.
Do we need a motion for that?
Kyle says no.
Kyle says no.
Kyle says no.
No, I mean, all you're
Michelle,
doing
Kyle,
is
no.
asking the rules committee to look at this rule and see if it needs to be amended, updated, that sort of thing. So there's no need for a vote for that.
Okay.
So rules committee expects to hear from me really soon. Because I think there's justification for an immediate need for a rule change on this one. All right, that's all I got.
Okay, all
Thank
right.
you.
And then a second part of this related is about Mindful Therapy Group. And Mindy's been working on this for a long time, trying to figure out just how to whether or not they are meeting the definition of agency. And let's see, what is this? The under mindful therapy discussion. Mindy says that it's clear that they're hiring independent providers in both Oregon and outside of Oregon, and their requirements to them do not fit the definition of agency.
So I believe the last time the board talked, the board came up with the conclusion at that point in time that mindful therapy fits the definition of agency. But I mean,
So
After they
under
existed
the-
at that point.
So under 87702000009, Mindy has highlighted on the requirements for.
I think you mean Wendy, just for the
Oh,
minutes.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes, Wendy.
Okay.
I said Mindy, didn't I?
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry, Patty, which rule again, please?
So it's 87702000009. And it's actually, we have a document under mindful therapy discussion in our in the
In the committee folder.
the committee folder, continuing education licensing exam.
No, I get this. The mindful therapy discussion.
Go ahead, Patty.
And so she has highlighted that
It's the same thing. Okay.
that the CSWA has to be at an agency while working in that agency that, and she highlights B, screens patients who are served by the agency and by the associate. And then further down, she has that Mindful Therapy Group is Washington Professional Services Corporation engaged in business of providing and or facilitating the provision of business support services to independent providers of clinical healthcare services. And so I think what Mindy, sorry, Wendy, like, is trying to say is that, like, based on this, mindful therapy is not an agency, but rather their job is to support businesses.
So, but that rule has to do with requirements for CSWAs. And so, I mean, I think it's which one, screens patients who are served by the agency. That's a requirement for the CSWA. That's not a mindful therapy requirement. But we can certainly say that if the CSWA under their place of practice is not screening patients who are served by that agency, then they're out of compliance. But that wouldn't have to do with mindful therapy because they don't have to comply with that. That's a CSWA.
Okay.
That we're gonna agency that does that.
Right, I understand.
But it sounds like their place of practice is their LLC or whatever their business is their place of practice. And that place of practice is contracting with Mindful Therapy Group.
Mhm.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, I mean, so the agency is really, they're really working for their LLC. That should be their agency.
So the way I understand the way the document is written, mindful therapy contracts with an organization, with an entity. Then the entity employs the CSWA. And by rule, but once again, under agency definition, we have to determine if it's one or all. Because if they, right now, so the last time that they were in front of the board, I don't have those notes in front of me, but the board approved them as under agency definition. As Kyle pointed out, I don't have direction as to whether the board is going to enforce all the rules of agency definition or one or two or three. But as it stands right now, all I do know is that they were here before and that they passed. Now, I can put together something for further discussion, but I guess that's what's on the table, honestly, is whether they fall under the agency definition. And I don't have, and I guess that's why I would need Kyle's help at this point. I don't have, for the purposes of defining an agency for a CSWA, I don't know if it's one person or one of the requirements or three of the requirements or five of them. I wouldn't, that's not under my, Kyle, I guess I need help with that.
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking, but the board doesn't regulate agencies.
I
So,
understand, but they do agency definitions.
they have a definition of agency that goes into whether or not it's an acceptable plan of practice and supervision.
Yes.
But the work that the CSWA is working under.
I guess from my perspective is like, I think we're talking mindful therapy, but again, if we don't talk mindful therapy, we're thinking agency. If the CSWA has created an LLC or they've created their own agency, their own business, right?
Right.
Does that agency, they're naming mindful therapy, but they're really working for their agency, who has then contracted with mindful therapy. So we
Yes,
really
that is
should be
correct.
looking at their agency to see if
Yes.
their agency meets definition.
Absolutely.
And maybe it does.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's it, Amy.
But my guess is no, because it sounds like the billing is not going through their LLC, it's going through mindful therapy.
Yeah, that's how those contracts work, or for better health or whatever it is, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, that, just thinking as a CSWA, right? And they're coming in and it's coming in that way. I think we're gonna have to likely have to have a different discussion with them of like,
Yes.
is it you that's contracted with them or is it your business that's contracted with them? Because it sounds like it's your business.
Right.
Yes.
Well, then how are they being paid? Are they a 1099? Are they,
I
do
don't
they
think that
have?
matters.
Hmm.
At least that's what I recall from previous discussion is we have not, that, as long as they met agency, it didn't matter whether they were employed or a contractor, they just needed to meet the requirements of an agency.
I think what we're looking at, or we're getting closer to, is the idea of one entity is the agency. And I think where things have been messy is people have kind of been going back and forth, right? Well, first I'm the agency, but also like mindful health is the agency. Like, and so it has to be one is the agency, and that's the criteria then, right? So if it's my LLC, I have to do all the things listed in there. But if I'm saying, nope, they're the agency, if they don't meet those requirements, then that's it. It can't be, some of them are met here and some of them are met over here.
Right, exactly.
I think that's where things have been messy before, and we're getting closer to kind of defining that more clearly, I think. But I think that's really what we're trying to move towards, right?
And as Kyle points out, so the scope of this discussion is simply, we're looking at this from the CSWA's perspective, not from mindful therapy's perspective. It's from the CSWA's perspective. The CSWA is to identify an agency. That is their burden. And once they identify an agency, it's our burden to determine if that agency falls under the agency definition. If they're identifying mindful therapy as their agency, we do the definition. If they're identifying themselves as the agency, we do the definition. Our task doesn't change.
But to the highlighted point here that I think Patty was getting at, that Wendy had highlighted, the screens patients who are served by the agency and the associate. It says while working in an agency that screens the patients.
Yes.
And so it needs to be also, if that's a requirement to be an agency, that needs to be listed in the definition of the agency as well, that they are screening patients.
Well, but we already have an agency. So we would
I know
take
that, but-
and take today's definition.
But that's, I'm just saying that should be part of it.
Yes.
So that in moving forward, so as we're looking at that.
Mandy?
This is a question for the providers. So in 877-020-009,
Mhm.
number 4A talks about, shows a person will meet the requirements while working in an agency that provides the associate with sufficient support to progress towards licensure. What is sufficient support?
Really, it should be the supervision is what we're.
Yeah,
Right.
they have to have administrative supervision, they have to have plan supervision, and then that combination of service providers should be doing the specifics of walking that person from the path of CSW to LCSW,
Right.
making sure they're doing their their renewals, making sure that they're meeting the 6 month reports, two meetings a month, having discussions around their case, bringing case files, all of those things.
So can a CSWA who has a LLC who is working for that and if it's that LLC is considered an agency, does that meet the requirement of sufficient support in that setup, in that business model?
And that goes,
Right, because they could hire
Yes.
somebody that provides them all of
Absolutely.
that support.
And that's not being required either, like, for example, the mindful therapy, the assumption that the information that we're getting is that these are CSWAs, they're getting their business. And that's it. They're not hiring people, they're not doing anything. It's just for them to meet the requirement of mindful therapy
right, exactly.
to be a contractor.
And they're contracting out for supervision, usually, right? They're not getting, or are they getting supervision in-house?
No,
Some get it in-house.
Yeah, mindful therapy says they get some kind of supervision and I think it's administrative.
No,
because
they
they
have some,
don't
they have some
therapy
clinical.
doesn't.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't need to have it to have supervision.
I know a lot of them have outside supervisors.
And I think that's what this language creates is a loophole.
Oh, yeah.
Sufficient support could just be
Yeah.
that we have your documentation, you can get that, documentation need for hours and things, but you're getting supervision somewhere else. If we're not requiring that as a definition as part of an agency, it doesn't have to come from the agency.
Right, that does not have to come from the agency. That's the responsibility of the plan of practice and the plan of supervision for the CSWA. That's those documents, yeah.
When this goes to the rules committee, one thing that I think is very important that would be really great to have down in the rules, there are a number of agencies that don't provide supervision.
Yes.
And so
that's
like
correct.
it can make people stuck in limbo. Because then, a CSWA is required to go out and pay a supervisor, which can be $100 to $200 for an hour. If it was in the rules that the agency was required to provide supervision, this would really help social work associates.
So I think the argument with that, Patty, has been that some places they just don't have somebody, right? It's an LPC maybe who is their supervisor and doing their clinical supervision, but that hasn't met requirement in the past. Or they just don't have someone who meets the requirements to be a licensure supervisor yet.
Yeah.
Right? Because you have to be post-licensed for a certain amount of time. And so, I don't know, if they require that, it limits who they can hire potentially, or if they don't have someone else. Yeah, so it kind of creates barriers too. I think that's why the intention of the language was there, was that you could still do that work. It could be an agency, but you may have to go get your licensure supervision out, outside of the house.
Which puts this makes a lot of people live in poverty who are social workers because they have to pay so much money. $200 times 100 is $20,000 for their license.
So
that's like a significant amount of money.
I don't argue with you about that.
So I have a recommendation. So, recommendation. So we got two questions on the table. Number one, outsourcing supervision, for lack of a better, supervision outside of your agency. And then number one, actually that's number two. Number one, agency definition for the purpose of CSWAs on their licensure path to LCSW. So what I can do outside of this meeting is put together, kind of take a look at the issues, and then work with a couple of licensees, come up with some language, some tighter language around, actually, I guess I don't have to do that. We have a rules committee for that. So, write a rules, so take it to the rules committee to firm up the language around agency definition. And so that would take care of the agency part of it. And then as far as supervision, I guess we can bring that back. That there's a question as to whether the board would even be involved in agencies that provide supervision or supervision outside of an agency. Because right now, the board's not even involved in that. We just ask, do you have a supervisor? We don't ask any other question than that. So I think that's what you're proposing, is that we get involved in how they get their supervision. And I think, we can bring that to a future board meeting, because that's a full-on discussion. Thoughts? Anybody? Nobody?
Talked a lot.
All right.
You okay with that, Patty?
Yeah, shall we move on?
Yeah.
Continuing Education Committee report.
Well, before
All
you,
right.
hang on one second. I'm trying to figure out where my question was about, was it under, it's not CC.
It's the licensing.
Is it part of this agenda item
Yes.
still? Before we move on, I did have one question, and I lost the name or the reference number. Do you have it, Kim?
Yeah, it was, I think, Emma. So it's about, a position description and whether it was clinical or not.
Oh, there.
Yeah, so this was the one, which is really related to some of our public commentary from earlier today around, the definition of a direct or only counting hours, direct client hours, how we kind of define those. And I believe that the request that came to the board was someone who's applying for a job or taking a job where all of their job seems to be consultation, that there's no direct client hours. Is that correct?
Yes,
Oh, wow.
yeah, so they said the role focuses on providing mental health consultation for early childhood educators and providers.
So I don't know, I wasn't in the discussion around it. I think there is a important distinction between the request that's coming from a public who commented today around the desire to include hours that are really directly related to client care that are kind of done in as a supplement to the direct client hours. That to me seems very different than a position where they're never actually engaging with the client at all. And I'm interpreting from what was provided to us, because it wasn't a formal job description. I think it was just the person's letter. So I'm making assumptions based on that. I can own that. But I'm a little concerned about if this is something that's going to be proposed to be approved, it really creates, I think, then everything, it opens the door really widely to begin with, and I'm hesitant to do that until we have some discussion around what's the intention here, what are the possible impacts, and yeah, I guess I'll stop there.
So here's one of the things that I said was that, so social work uses an ecological model for understanding human behavior and also for making interventions. And I think that where often we think that these interventions are only on like the individual or small group basis. But I think that clinical work can be done at multiple levels across the ecological model. So like it can also be done like through agencies and through communities and even larger. And I tend to believe that this is like some of the most important area for prevention work, which is like very, very important for clinical social work. So if we're going to like narrow further and further down to like making clinical social work only what counselors or marriage and family therapists do, then I think we're missing like a huge part of what makes social work social work.
So I agree around the layers of the work and that this is important work. And I'm also like, we have 2 different licenses in Oregon. So if we're going to have two different licenses, what is the distinction? Because a lot of what, at least some of what I heard both in the public, but then in testimony and in this document, to me seemed like it actually fell under an LMS license work as opposed to the LCSW. And we do have those distinctions exist right now. So I think we have to acknowledge that that is our parameters currently. And I agree that that is important work. I guess my concern is my concern is that when that work happens, like when we talk about a clinical work or LCSW, I have trouble, I guess, envisioning the idea that someone could become an LCSW without ever actually speaking directly to a client. And I get client could be community and things like that, but that's why the LMSW was created, was to create this different path of licensure for people doing a different kind of work that granted is overlaid and interconnected. I get all that. But this is what, if we approve this today, that is what we are saying, is that you can get your LCSW without ever speaking directly to a client. And that's my concern, is that perhaps it needs more nuanced conversation than just approving this one, but thinking about what is the impact and in terms of equity too, for other people who have made these requests. If we're going to, you know, have a decision tree around this, it needs to be informed as opposed to, I don't want to react to kind of one situation. I think this brings up a larger conversation that we should have.
I mean, I think similar to what was brought up this morning, right, in public comment, working towards being a CSWA, working towards your LCSW does not preclude you from doing all of the bigger community work, doing all that, but do we count that towards clinical hours? Meaning like that you've done an assessment, there's some treatment planning, we understand like the intervention that's going to, like, it doesn't preclude people from doing that. And I'm thinking in this, the one that's the share screen right now, I think for me was just concerning because I just saw this more as consultation instead of the actual work with the client. Then I have concerns about somebody who is not clinical providing consultation, who has not done the actual work. And maybe Molly, that's what you're speaking to. I just see this one looking different than the crisis worker or the individuals who are serving CSWAs who are serving individuals with, say, a severe and persistent mental illness, where that work just looks different, but it is very clinical in nature.
And I want to acknowledge our interpretation is based on the information she's providing, which is not a formal job description. So maybe it would be helpful to get the job description. And if it explicitly says there's some client contact, then that's a maybe different conversation that is in line with some other requests we're getting from the community. But at this point, my assumption is that that role that she's identified, or this person has identified, doesn't have direct client contact, that it is only consultation with kind of the educators or teachers or those roles. And that's how it seemed to be defined in the information provided.
I guess in that case, so wouldn't the consultees then be clients?
Not for clinical hours.
Like, we're not assessing them and creating a treatment plan and doing a clinical intervention with them.
Well, we don't know that. I mean, there has to be some kind of assessment involved, right? Like this is kind of like what I mean about like all of the different ecological levels in social work as well, that there is assessment and diagnosis. Although they may not be like the PHQ-9 and the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual. In the rules, it says diagnosis such as but not limited to the DSM.
I feel like without a more formal information on the description of this job, this is a theoretical conversation, which I'm real uncomfortable. I'll be honest, I will not support kind of approving this at this stage with this information. Because it's unclear what she's gonna be doing to, I guess, formally in terms of the job description.
So, and this, so I want to bring us back to, because we are, as a board, we are bound by what's written in the rule. And I'm reading Rule 877-020-0009, requirements for a certificate of CS Clinical Social Work Associate. Part of one of those requirements, when they do their plan of practice, it says requires a minimum of 3,500 practice hours, which at least 2,000 hours must involve direct contact with a client of the agency. And so, I mean, there's still room for this discussion for a future state, but for current state, rule requires that the individual has 2,000 hours of direct contact. And then we also have another rule, let me go to that one. Direct contact, and that's, I'm reading directly from Rule 877-001-0006, Section 7. Direct contact for the purposes of meeting the requirements of a plan of supervision, as set out in Division 20 of this chapter, means clinical social work practice hours by a licensee that are in person or via live video conferencing or teleconferencing with the client. So there's lots of future states around what direct contact can look like and around client contact. But as it stands right now, for the purposes of CSWA, who is moving towards the path of LCSW, they have to interact with a client, someone that's defined as a client, and that contact has to be in person or video conference. So that's the world we live in at this point in time.
I think what they're going to say, though, is that the consultees are the client and that the direct client hours are their hours with the consultee.
I don't think I think that's a misinterpretation of client, because they're not doing an assessment on the people they're consulting with. The interventions aren't intervening with the person they're consulting with. The interventions are being developed for somebody else who they do not have contact with. So they're developing everything solely based on collateral information.
They did offer to get a letter that would outline their specific job descriptions, which I think if we got that, we could have a great conversation.
Yeah, it sounds like y'all just need more information.
I will get a formal job description.
Yeah, I mean, we've denied similar requests, so if there's any proposal to make an exception, it has to be really clear for what we're basing that on for equity purposes and consistency.
All right, then shall we come back to it next time?
Yeah, assuming we have the information we need, yeah.
We'll get an actual position description, and if there's anything else you guys want us to request, just let me know.
So I need to transition to my car. How is that gonna impact quorum? Is there like a 5-minute window where my absence is not?
Yeah.
No, Kyle, look at you.
We can take a break, right?
No, we can't take a break.
I can't even, no, we can take a break, but I can't step out of the room even.
Until she gets back on her phone in the car, we can't reconvene.
Yes.
Maybe I could do that from here, so we don't need to break. You don't want to. I just need a phone number. What phone number? Oh, someone give it that.
Let me see, it's on the,
You disconnect from me, yeah. Okay.
So yeah, the number to dial in should be on the calendar invite, but,
Okay.
do you have that in your phone?
Yeah, you guys can keep going. That's from you,
Um,
right?
I'd just like to add, I'm not sure how much longer I can hang in there, guys.
Gotcha. Yeah, I figured that.
Do we
Okay.
have,
Well,
I think we have two, am I correct in saying we have two more things to vote on?
Yeah, and then we can
for
close.
the committee reports, right?
Yeah, we
And
got.
then consent agenda.
Yes.
Then we can call it good.
Please take licensure. Not a full time. Oh, so they might move on.
I think what we need, well, so then as far as, so, yeah, licensing committee report. So I think we got through everything on the licensing and examination committee we can get through today, right? And so I think someone from the board needs to propose that we move on to continuing education committee report.
And then, yep, thank you. Was that it, Patty? I just wanted to make sure on the licensing and exam committee, that was it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Okay, so if we can move on then, Patty, is this you also?
Yes.
The continuing education committee report? Okay.
All right, let's see how quick. I think I get that done in 120 seconds at least. Okay. So we approved Kathy Lawrence for emotionally focused therapy externship for 10 hours. We approved a request from Todd Jacobson for 5.35 hours for trauma-informed care training and cultural responsiveness training. We approved pending certificate of completion for Alexandra Verbalis Kolp for 9 hours of Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society training. We've approved Oregon as a continuing education credentialing body. We've approved a continuing education waiver for Billy Hayden, who is going to be on active duty. And that is it. Unless there's any questions.
I think we want to give Molly a few minutes to connect.
Can I ask a procedural question? If Stephanie needs to be away, but we still have consent agenda for voting, correct?
Yes, and I'm about to add that to box right now, so just give me a couple seconds.
Can we still have the discussion, Kyle, about old business? No.
No,
Yeah.
the meeting has to end if you don't have a quorum.
Okay,
Hold on, I think I need to admit you.
Yeah.
You are now admitted.
Okay.
All right, so I think Molly's okay to vote on the continuing education committee report.
Okay to vote.
I don't think we need to.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Then I think that,
We just get the consent agenda inbox that needs to be voted on.
did I say, okay, Kim is uploading the consent agenda inbox right now.
It is uploading right now, so you guys can refresh.
Okay.
Does everyone have access to the consent agenda?
Mhm.
I don't see it yet.
Just in the general box. Stephanie.
You might have to refresh, Stephanie.
Yeah. Doing that right now. Uh, Always when you want it, you can't find it.
It's just, it's in the main April CPC and full board meeting, and it's just titled R 2025 consent
Yep,
agenda.
I found it. Yep, got it. Okay. I'm ready.
Can I get a motion?
This is Stephanie. I move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Stephanie.
This is Patty, a second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Stephanie, I'm just checking in. We have Alternative Pathways, a newsletter. Can we do 20 more minutes?
And basically newsletter is if you all don't object, it goes out.
Yeah, I've read the newsletter and it's fine. I don't know what kind of conversation is going to be around the alternative pathways, but I'm not up to any kind of just long discussion, argument, or anything else at the moment. So I'm going to say no. I didn't think we were going to go to even this long, so.
Patty, do you have a thought about length?
What I would like is, so it's been a year this month since this committee was approved. And it's been since September that we provided the board our first report. And it feels like this thing is just, I don't understand why it's not moving. And I want to just like understand what's going on.
Patty, this would have been a good discussion if I hadn't had major surgery, because I've read it, I've made notes, but I'm not where I need to be to have a discussion on it today. That's one of the reasons I asked for it to be moved to June. Plus, we'll have a full board in June, which would make it even a bigger discussion. But like I said, major surgery has just taken a lot out of me.
Right now, like as we continue to sit on this, there are many Black social workers in Oregon who are unable to get licensed, who should be licensed today. And the longer we sit on this, the harder it is on our communities.
Yeah, it does sound like it's going to be it sounds like it's going to be a long discussion. So while Patty, I hate that we'll have to table it. I don't, if Stephanie can't stay, then and it sounds like Kyle, if Stephanie can't stay, we have to be done.
That's correct. If we don't have a quorum, the meeting has to end.
Okay. Okay. Molly,
I heard my name.
I was like, Molly, thoughts? Stephanie is going to have to leave. And so we're going to have to have the alternative pathways during the next meeting when she is there and we have other board members. So we
Okay.
at least have, so we have quorum.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think yeah, if I can everyone hear me? Can I make a comment?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to emphasize that for the new members coming in who haven't had, haven't been a part of kind of the historical conversations, that we make sure we get them this document in more than ample time for them to review it. So I just want to give people the time it takes to kind of take this stuff into consideration, because of all the effort that the board and the committee has made up to this point to be really intentional around moving this forward. And I understand and agree with like the urgency around what this feels like has been a long process. And I will also say, as I've kind of said, I don't know if I've said this in the meeting before or if I've just mentioned it in passing to people, that if we're going to make a change like this as a board, I want it to be so well done and intentional that it's not something that we will be forced to revisit a year later or 2 years later or whatever it is. And so even though it's taken a while, I think that what will happen is that when we come to a decision, we can feel very confident in how intentional we have been around kind of decision or language around it. So I just want to kind of provide that perspective. Thanks.
What I really hope that we can get, and that I hope the conversation can be on, is like, there are these 3 different policy options proposed. One, complete abolition is what the committee has recommends. Below that would be using our jurisprudence exam. And then below that further is having an alternative pathway model similar to Minnesota or Illinois, which the committee determined was really an inequitable way of providing assessment. I really just want to be able to know like where people are, like what would pass. Because right now, Black social workers in Oregon, many Black social workers are suffering and they're not able to get licensed, and Oregon suffers when this happens. Many disabled social workers are unable to get licensed. Many like Spanish-speaking social workers who have English as a second language are unable to get licensed. And we got to do something. We got to do something for Oregonians and for our social workers.
Patty, I'm armed. I'm ready for, I think, June. And I will be also interested in hearing what our new board members who will get all that information, particularly we have some public board members, like their insight into that too. Okay, I think we lost Stephanie. So, I mean, not Stephanie, I think we lost Emily.
We have
Lost who?
Molly's on.
No, Molly's on the phone. Molly, can you hear?
She's on Ray's phone now.
Yeah, Molly?
Yeah.
There we go.
Driving, I can't call back in. Sorry.
I don't know if you can hear any of that, but she says she's driving, she can't call back in, so she's on my phone and she can hear.
But she can hear, yeah.
And if she says something, I can relay it to the board, or when she says something, like she just did.
Okay, it sounds like we need to adjourn the meeting, since Stephanie is going to be leaving us.
One
Do we
one
need to
other
vote
piece
on the
about the newsletter, yeah, because we need to approve that, right?
No, it's just, I was asked to bring the newsletter to the board as a convenience. And my understanding from last time we talked was that if there's an objection to the newsletter, then you all let me know. Otherwise, it's good as written and goes out. So no need to vote on that.
I kind of do, so the part that's like an advertisement for the ASWB exam preparation, I don't really understand why that's in there.
Okay, we'll place it on hold pending next meeting.
Is there anything else before we adjourn? Hey, Stephanie, thank you for holding in there. I appreciate you being here so that we can get through some business.
It's been hard, I'll tell you that.
It's a
Okay,
mess.
so Kim, next meeting, June, correct?
Correct.
June, yes, but the logistics are kind of being ironed out for that still, so stay tuned.
Right.
Okay. To be determined, thank you.
Yeah, we're having a real difficult time finding a place and time on the coast, but we're still working through it. So we ain't done yet.
Kyle, I think historically somebody's made a motion to close. Would somebody make a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to close the meeting.
This is Stephanie, I second it.
Thank you. All right, we will see you all in June. And Nikki, and I can't remember, they're in the room, our new board member.
Julie.
Julie, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, take
Nicole,
care,
see you
everyone.
next month.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Still need board members and check your portals.
Oh, geez.
We did it, y'all.